This is a film resume of the movie Australia from 2008. And in 1939, the British woman known as Sarah Ashley travels to Australia to meet her husband Maitland Ashley in Northern Australia. The husband sends the cattle driver known as Trower to Darwin to help her get to their farm. However, when they reach it, they find that Maitland was murdered by King George. One one of the Aborigines elders. Sarah's best friend Nuala, the half-blooded boy, who tells her that the administrator Neil Fletcher is stealing her cattle, was really the one that killed her husband, and is in reality working for the cattle baron King Carney. Sarah fires Fletcher and his men, and together with Trower, Nuala, and a group of loyal employees, they ride together to take the cattle to supply the army and win a tender in times of war. But their ambitions, Fletcher has other intentions, and tries to stop them from getting to Darwin. He fails, and they get to supply the army. Sarah adopts Nuala and falls in love with Trower. Fletcher kills Carney and gets the company and his daughter. World War II starts, and Nuala is sent away to Mission Island with the other half-bloods, and the Travellers leaves Sarah. So she is all alone. Sarah is in Darwin when the Japanese attack Australia, and Trower comes home and believes that she is dead, so goes to the Mission Island to get Nuala. He gets them all home, but at the cost of losing his best friend. Nuala goes back to Outback with his family. Sarah and Trower live together with each other.
As you have heard, Sarah is a very determined person, and she does what she wants. But over the course of the movie, she gets more and more compassionate and less self-centered, and starts worrying about other people. And her relationship with Nuala, the half-blooded child, is very lovingly, because she doesn't have the ability to get children of her own. So she wants to adopt Nuala because of that reason, and have Trower as the father, since she now is a widow. Trower is a very hardened and grizzled man, since he doesn't let anybody into his heart, but he is compassionate when it comes to his friends and family. So when Sarah wants to help him get his commission and get all of her cattle to Darwin, she enlists his help, and he wants to help, but he thinks it was going to be very difficult, since he doesn't think that they have enough drivers to do the job. So he was willing to try and train them and help them become drivers. And so over the course of the movie, Trower and Sarah gets more and more together and more in love. And when he leaves, sometimes Sarah gets enough of it and doesn't want him to come back if he leaves. So he gets heartbroken, and wants to go back and tell her that he is sorry, because he is very sad. And his friend Magali tells him that he is a fool for not trying to get a new wife after his first one died of illness.
And about Nuala, he was an Aboriginal child in Australia. His grandfather is an Aboriginal elder. King George, his parents are Daisy and Neil Fletcher. And Fletcher and Carney. Neil Fletcher was a greedy and obsessive man who fathered a son, Nuala, with one of his Aboriginal victims, who is one of people victimized by a stolen generation. And Carney was a successful businessman who ran a cattle empire.
Going over the strengths and weaknesses of the movie. Uh, one of this movie's greatest weaknesses I would say would be its runtime. It's a run for about 2 hours and 45 minutes, but sadly the movie actually feels so much longer than it's necessary, and it doesn't come with a lot more because of its runtime. If I should make a comparison, I feel like it has as many endings as the Never-Ending Story, but it runs from the length of The Lord of the Rings, and even then, some of the characters aren't some of the greatest, and come back after they filled their part of the role. This is one of my personal opinions, but one of these characters I feel like would be Fletcher. I understand that he is one of the four main characters, but I feel like isn't that necessary, because after trying to stop Sarah and the company, he doesn't actually try and do much. He just makes threats and kills Carney, but that isn't a whole lot more to bring him back. And before the movie ends, he just comes back to try and kill Nola, and he doesn't even do that. So I kind of just feel like that that it should have been Carney the whole time, and he should have just thrown out or killed Fletcher instead, since he is supposed to be the main antagonist. Strength is of these characters is that they were casted excellently, were a really good job with the performance and acting. But the one that felt the greatest was Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman fits the grizzled man with a heart of stone, the kind of actor or trope. And his character arc works very well, since it's stretched over the entire movie, and it doesn't feel drawn out too much. Um, there's also something in the movie that you can notice, is that I don't know if it was intentional or just a very funny coincidence, but by the way we can see it, the character progression of how they are as a person can be seen through their outfits. And I have like examples like Sarah and Fletcher, where Sarah's outfit goes from dress very fine with white gloves and a big hat, to where she gets less self-centered and more rough or tough through the movie, and ends up in a simple shirt and a skirt. And we also see Fletcher going from a western cowboy to a lucrative businessman, since he kills Carney and gets more money and more power. And when it all comes crumbling down at the end, he gets torn clothes and looks very bad and not so fine in it, because he loses everything. What we feel like could improve the movie. The way we see the way to improve the movie would be to make either the introduction to the characters way shorter, and not spend as much time in the outback when we travel from Darwin to the station, or end the movie a bit earlier, because that is very plausible to have the movie end earlier and still have a satisfying conclusion. I would also do so that we spend more time with King Carney, because he kinda is just there and doesn't do very much, except just being this very powerful businessman that Fletcher can kill to gain more power. And so I would like to have a bit more of him and a bit less of Fletcher, since he is supposed to be the quote-unquote antagonist of the movie. I would also spend less time with King George, because sometimes when he is there, he just stares and doesn't do anything except kind of just watching, which can sometimes just stop the momentum and the suspense of the moments, and kind of not make it as good as it could have been. But some of them works very well with the music, so we would like to do that, or else there isn't very much of anything else we would like to change the movie.